So none of us are perfect. We all deal with what we deal with. And at any given moment in time, we can trip, we can make a mistake, and we can get things wrong. And it's okay. It's okay. We love that line from Scent of a Woman. Life is like the tango. If you get tangoed up, you just tango on. There's no point in dwelling on it. There's no point in getting wrapped up on it. It's just water under the bridge, and we keep going. And we'll know better for next time the way to phrase it or do it or speak to people or deal with people or check ourselves and observe ourselves, and we learn from our mistakes. That's the important part, not the being perfect, not the trying not to make mistakes. That's fear getting the best of us. That's fear controlling us and getting us to, like I said, hesitate and second guess our intuition, second guess the information that we're getting from within, the still soft voice that is challenging us to be the vessel, to be the voice, to be the servant and the conduit for that truth and that beauty and that love to flow into the world through us. That's a challenge. And rest assured that practically every aspect of our mechanical psychology is there as to resist that, to create an obstacle to that, to prevent that. And that is what causes us to fumble and stumble and trip and fall. But all of that has its purpose, because it is only through failure that we can become cognizant of the causes of our failure. It is only through failure that we can know our defects and vices. It is only through resistance that we can become stronger. And we've talked about this many times on many live streams. It's as fundamental to the Alm of Life. It's fundamental to learning to touch type, learning to play the piano, learning anything really, and certainly mastering something. But it's also true for very simple mechanical things like building muscle, right? We lift weights, we do resistance training to build muscle, or we do lots of cardio to build our cardiovascular fitness. It's the same thing. You have to push yourself. But the point is that training is done under tension, under stress. And it's a kind of controlled and healthy stress. And in weight training, there's even a concept called training to failure. And you're pushing yourself right to the limits, because when we do that, we expand those limits. And something very similar is going on in our life, on the path. The Alm of Life is universal, the analogous ultimate methodology. It is the methodology by which all phenomena come to be or not be. But if obstacles, if tests, if challenges, if resistance is all necessary for us to make progress, then it begs the question, who or what is orchestrating all of those obstacles, all of those tests and trials and ordeals that make us stronger? You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's a common idiom. It's a well-known expression. And the answer to the question of who or what is orchestrating all we need in our life and everything that we need on the path in order to be, in order to become, in order to evolve and awaken and self-realize. The answer is our individual divine mother. There is an aspect of our higher self, the divine feminine aspect of our true self, who is singularly responsible for orchestrating everything in our life, all that we need. And yes, all of those tests, trials, and ordeals. Life is baffling. It's one of the many visual aids from our book. But the nature of baffles is that someone had to make them, someone had to put them there. And what's powerful about that symbol, that allegory of baffles, is the fact that baffles are what resist water. They are what resist the flow, and they cause turbulence in the water. They cause the water to swirl into a spiral, into a vortex, which is absolutely critical from the standpoint of the analogous ultimate methodology, because of the spiral pattern is what is characteristic of the Alm of Life. This is from our book, this figure. So the spiral pattern, the Alm of Life, when water undergoes that motion, that movement, because it encounters a baffle, that movement creates structured living water. It is the most capable water. It is the freshest, most refreshing, most powerful in terms of its ability to dissolve and its ability to carry minerals and oxygen. So this is why in nature you have creeks, you have rivers, you have rapids. And just like if you look at all the arteries and veins and capillaries in your body, they're not straight. Nature doesn't build canals like we do. They find their way. Water carves its way through the landscape. Even the tiniest little creek or the massive rivers that carve out huge canyons, like the Colorado River, which carved out the Grand Canyon, any of the great rivers of the world, but they have all these little tributaries that flow into them, that come down from the mountains, mountain glacial meltwaters and rainfall coming down from the mountains, and these little tiny little creeks become streams, become rivers with roaring rapids, and the water that's being churned and the turbulence that's taking place because of those rocks and those baffles. That water is so fresh and alive and strong and capable and structured. It represents, for physical water, its highest expression. That water that is able to go through those flow forms of nature. And we've mentioned many times, right, the opposite of that, which is you look at a stagnant pool, right, water that's just been sitting there. There's no movement, has no inflow, no outflow. It's just, there's no flow forms. It's just standing water. And we're certain you've come across such pools or puddles or ponds in your life, or swamps where the water just collects and it has no ability to flow. And what is the characteristic of that water? What does it attract, right? Algae, and it becomes a fetid, algae infested, mosquito infested, not altogether dead, but certainly not vibrant and fresh and alive. It's a fetid, stagnant, putrid pool because it has no dynamism, it has no flow, and it has none of the baffles of what we speak for to struggle against, to fight through, to fight itself around, to become structured and living and alive. In this example of water, we can see our choices in life, to be or not to be, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against a sea of troubles and by avoiding end them. Do you see how the water that is rushing through the raging rapids or going through these baffles that you see how those baffles represent the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? Because it's disturbing the water. It disturbs the flow of water. It interrupts the flow. That's the point. They cause chaos, essentially, but it is in the process of facing that and suffering that we have the potential to be what we were born to be, what we have the potential to be. But the law of free will is absolute. No one is forced, and many choose a life of comfort and security. They choose not to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. And the desire for comfort and security is fear, and the desire not to overextend oneself, to try to maximize one's leisure time and entertainment and pleasure. That's laziness, but it's also desire of many different kinds. lust, gluttony, etc. That represents the water that's chosen the easy path, the still path, right? Don't disturb me. Don't rock the boat. No, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with anything. Just leave me alone. People who just take the path of least resistance, the water that takes the path of least resistance, ends up in that still water pool, that still water pond, fetid and putrid and overcome by the parasites that thrive in essentially dead water, because you don't see algae infested, mosquito infested swamp water in a babbling brook and its rapids where the water is constantly flowing. And no, you see it's fresh and it's vibrant. Lower order organisms can't take hold in vibrant, fresh, living water. Those lower order organisms, they gravitate towards, and they can only really exist in dead water. This is a clue for us. And what's particularly poignant when we use the allegory of water to describe this issue of being or not being is we look to our own creative waters. We look to the creative waters of the Divine Mother, the creative force. How does it flow within us? Or is it stagnant? Is it putrefied? And has it attracted all sorts of parasites which feed on it? This is the power of this particular allegory of water.